Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Well, today is the day where you get the requested decal video. It's going to be a two-parter. I might do a bonus three-parter, but this essentially is showing you how I do my custom decals. I had a lot of people ask about it in the past, and so this video series will kind of detail how I do it. The things you will need for this are computer of some type, a laptop or a desktop, whatever. You'll need Microsoft PowerPoint, preferably, and you'll need some type of PDF software, either like Adobe Reader or some other off-brand. I use one for my MacBook that's not Adobe, but it works just fine. I've used Adobe in the past too. You will need a LaserJet printer, not a dot matrix and not an inkjet. They won't work. And you'll also need some office label printer sheets, like Avery Office Products makes the label sheets that you run through your printer. You won't use the actual labels, but you'll peel the labels off and you'll use the waxy underside of that paper. So those are the things that you definitely will need to make the labels. It's a simple process. It does take practice and time. It can be a little frustrating at first, but it does allow you to create your own custom decals. And like I've mentioned in the past, the problem with buying decals off other people, they might do a fantastic job, but if they're making a small batch, they're going to charge you an arm and a leg, which I get it. I mean, that's just what running a small business is about. But this allows you to at least be flexible and enough to make your own decals for your own custom projects. Now, the decals are semi-permanent. You can use just about any font, I think. Colors are extremely limited. You're basically limited to dark colors like black, greens, blues, and whatnot. And it also depends on what you're going to decal too. So you need to be aware of that. A little bit of common sense, and you'll know when you start decaling what works and what doesn't work. Other than that, it's just a basic scrapbooking technique that I kind of stole and put on G.I. Joe stuff. And you can make labels for just about anything. I do want to mention that the fonts that I use are the sandbox fonts I bought off the Trenches forum, a gentleman on there probably back in the early 2000s. So I don't know, I can't remember who the man was, and I also don't remember where I found him other than the Trenches forum. So you might get out there and ask around, and there might be people who have those fonts still available. They're pretty cool fonts. I have two different types, the regular sandbox and the sandbox distressed. I prefer the sandbox distressed because it has a little more wiggle room if you mess the label up. Other than that, it's a pretty basic process. Practice, practice, practice is what I always suggest because you just don't want to come out dry and try to just decal something right off the bat. You definitely need to practice. So without further ado, here's the video. Thanks. Okay, so let's get started here. First thing I'm going to do is open up a blank presentation. If you're familiar with PowerPoint, you'll know what I'm talking about. Then go through, if you happen to open up a slide that wasn't blank, delete all those text boxes that come up. You can open up blank slides, I just didn't do that in this case. Then you would insert a brand new text box. Go ahead and change the font size a little bit. That's what I always do to kind of make it bigger so I can see what I'm doing. Then select whatever font you're going to use. As I mentioned earlier, I have the sandbox fonts. You can probably find those if you talk to some people on Facebook. I'm sure somebody has them. I'm just going to go with the regular standard sandbox font. For this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and do Caution Flammable, G.I. Joe Adventure Team, All-Purpose Fuel. You'll notice the little G.I. Joe heads. When you start a new sentence, it automatically capitalizes, and that is the caps version of those letters on the sandbox fonts. So I just go back, backspace, put the letter back in without caps. And there you go. It's important to check your spelling and to make sure you have your alignment and style and everything the way you want it. Definitely check spelling because you don't want to go through the whole process and find out you misspelled a word. So there we go. That is what we're going to make a decal of. So next thing you want to do is convert it to a PDF file. I always use the print function on my MacBook. There's other ways to do it, but I just go ahead and hit print and then save as a PDF. I usually save everything to my desktop so I can find it. In this case, I'm going to just name it, let's see, fuel drum decal. And then we'll go ahead and save that to the desktop. I usually most of the time go back and delete the old text boxes I was using because I don't really need them anymore. Just leave the slide blank because we're going to reuse it again. Minimize out of everything. Let's find that text box. There we go. Sorry, find the file. So fuel drum decal right there on my desktop where I left it. All right, then you want to go to the edit function on your Adobe or whatever you're using. And on Adobe, it's take a snapshot. Here, it's take a screenshot. So you just select, put a selection box around what you want to copy. And just hit copy for this. I want to mention on Adobe, it's take a snapshot, and when you do the selection, it just basically copies it for you. So all you got to do is go to wherever you want to and then hit paste. So it's one less step to what I'm doing. So go ahead and paste that text box or PDF box, snapshot, screenshot, whatever the heck it's called. Okay, then from here you can make it any size you want. It's all one file now. So you size it, and then next is the most important thing. You want to mirror the image. When you mirror the image, what it does is when it prints off on the waxy side of the paper, which is the side you are going to bond to whatever you're labeling, it comes out the correct wording or whatever, I guess the correct I don't know what the heck you'd call it. It's mirrored. Let's just put it that way. Or correct order. So, as you can see, I've mirrored it. It says, caution flammable, GI Joe Adventure Team all-purpose fuel. So next, we're going to print this. So load your printer paper up in your printer. I also want to mention you have to use a LaserJet. If you're a super sleuth and you see my printer up there, that is not a LaserJet printer. That's my wife's printer, which it's currently linked to, but I have a LaserJet. They're pretty inexpensive nowadays, so you can get a pretty decent one, but you have to use a LaserJet. So go ahead and print the decal off with your paper loaded. It's also important to make sure that you know what side you're printing on before you print, because you don't want to print on the back side of your waxy label paper. Also here is my PowerPoint file, which has all my labels in it. I'll just cycle through them real quick. I save everything I've ever done to a file. I usually back it up in case I ever, God forbid, lose it. But this has all my labels that I've done in the past and some for the future. Right here is some labels that I can show you how to make like sticker decals for your customs using Mod Podge. I might do that in a bonus video. You don't have to reverse these images because you're just adhering them directly to it. You can see here some clip art I did for some other projects. Just pull stuff off the internet and just make a decal out of it. It's kind of what I do. Just get an idea in my head and just go looking for stuff. I don't know how many slides I have of decals, but I've got a ton. Here, you know, I've made computer screens. This might be my bonus video. I might just do a computer screen. I just pulled that clip art off the internet, just sized or shrank it down to fit a small G.I. Joe computer. That might be the tutorial I do. We'll see. But everything I usually make, I just save because I never know when I'm going to need it again. That's important to do. Again, here's some more labels I've used to make fuel cans and whatnot. It looks really good when it's done, depending on the quality of your printer. I mean, this all looks really good. For what you're doing and not paying like a premium price for custom decals, it looks really good in the end. So, a few things to note: the decals are semi-permanent. You can take them off with a Scotch pad, a little bit of elbow grease. It might scratch the paint up on whatever you're doing. You definitely have to use a laser jet. Patience, 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 and practice, practice, practice. Those are all important things to do. But you're really only limited by your skill set kind of on here. You can just find a lot of different decals and make your own. And it's really fun to do, but I would definitely practice what you're doing and definitely be patient. This takes time. So stay tuned for the next video. I will actually show how I decal a fuel drum using the label we just did here. So cheers, guys.